Hello and welcome to Lucid Mind Chemistry channel with Majid. In this video, I'll be solving Chemistry O-Levels Multiple Choice, Paper 12 from May-Jun 2019. You can go to any particular question by following timestamps given in the video description. Let's start. Question number 1. The diagrams show 4 different methods of collecting gases. Which method is suitable for collecting a gas which has the properties described? A. Method of collecting gas is number 1, and this is actually downward delivery. Properties of gas is that gas should be less dense than air. Now this is incorrect because the gas should be more dense than air if we are going to use downward delivery. This is because heavier gas tends to go downwards because of gravity and lighter gas tends to go upwards. B. Method is second, and properties of gas is that gas is denser than air and soluble in water. Now in second method we have used gas syringe, and it is suitable for both denser than air property and soluble in water property of gas. So 2 could be correct option. In C we have third apparatus that is used, and the properties of gas is that it should be less dense than air and soluble in water. Now in 3 we can see that the separation is based on water jar. So therefore the gas that is to be separated must be insoluble in water. So 3 is incorrect. In D, the property of gas is that it should be denser than air and insoluble in water. Now we can see that apparatus 4 is actually upward delivery, and the gas that is separated through this method is lighter gas. So it should not be denser, it should be lighter than air. So therefore D is also incorrect. Correct answer is therefore B. Question number 2. After acidification with dilute nitric acid, a colorless solution of X reacts with aqueous silver nitrate to give a white precipitate. What could X be? Now this is anion identification test. And in this test what happens that silver ion from silver nitrate reacts with halide from given salt to form precipitate. Let's see which one gives out white precipitate. First one is calcium iodide. So when calcium iodide is put in aqueous silver nitrate in the presence of nitric acid, the precipitate that is formed is silver iodide. And silver iodide is yellow in color. We need a white precipitate, so therefore A is incorrect. B is copper 2 chloride. Now copper chloride solution is actually pale blue in color. While in the question they had given that the solution of X is colorless. So it means it is not copper chloride. So B is also incorrect. C is lead 2 iodide. The formula is PbI2. It can react with silver nitrate in the presence of nitric acid to form silver iodide. Again, silver iodide precipitate is solid and it is yellow in color. So C is also incorrect. D is sodium chloride. Now sodium chloride is colorless solution and it can react with silver nitrate in the presence of nitric acid to form silver chloride. Now silver chloride precipitate is white in color. Therefore, sodium chloride is correct. The answer is therefore D. Question number 3. The diagram represents a chromatogram of the colorless acids present in a drink. The chromatogram has been treated with a locating agent. The table of Rf values for the possible acids is given. Now this is the table that shows the Rf value of these acids. Which acids are present in the drink? This is the origin or baseline and this is the solvent front. Let's first find out the distance that is traveled by solvent. The distance traveled by solvent front is actually 5 centimeters. Now let's find out the distance traveled by spots. This is first spot, this is second spot, and this is the third one. The distance traveled by first spot is 0.8 centimeters, while the distance traveled by second spot is 1.15 centimeters. Similarly, the distance traveled by third spot is 2.5 centimeters from the baseline. Let's find out the Rf value. Now the formula of Rf is the distance traveled by spot divided by the distance traveled by solvent. For first spot, Rf value will be equal to 0.8 centimeter divided by the distance traveled by solvent front, which is 5 centimeters. So it comes equal to 0.16. Similarly, for second, we can find out the Rf value 1.15, which is the distance traveled by second spot divided by 5 centimeter, and the value comes equal to 0.23. For third spot, Rf value is equal to 2.5 centimeters divided by 5 centimeters, which comes equal to 0.50. Now from the table given, we can see that 0.16, 0.23 and 0.50 are given, which correspond to citric acid, malic acid and succinic acid. Let's look into the option. In option B, we can see that we have citric acid, malic acid and succinic acid. So therefore, correct answer is B. Question number 4. Which gas will diffuse at the fastest rate at the same temperature and pressure? Now the rate of diffusion of gas actually depends on the molecular mass of gas. Molecular mass is inversely proportional to the rate of diffusion. So therefore lighter gas will diffuse faster as compared to heavier gas. Let's find out the molecular masses. From periodic table we can see that the atomic mass of argon is given, which is 40. In B we have 3 carbon atoms and 8 hydrogen atoms. So for 3 carbons we can multiply 3 with the atomic mass of carbon, which is 12. And for hydrogen we can multiply it by 1, which is the atomic mass of 1 hydrogen. So 36 plus 8, it becomes 44. In C we have carbon dioxide. We have 1 carbon, which is actually equal to 12, and 2 oxygen atoms. So 2 into 16, which is 32. 32 plus 12, it becomes 44. In D we have fluorine. Now the atomic mass of 1 fluorine is 19, and for 2 fluorine atom it will be equal to 38. Now among these 4 gases, we can see that the lowest molecular mass is 38, which is of fluorine. So therefore fluorine will diffuse with the fastest rate. Question number 5. 2 particles K positive and argon can be written as K positive 3919 and argon 4018. Which statement about these particles is correct? A. Argon has more neutrons than K positive. Let's find out the number of neutrons. Number of neutrons is actually nucleon number. K plus the nucleon number is 39 minus atomic number, which is 19. So the number of neutrons come equal to 20. Similarly, for argon, we can find out the number of neutrons by subtracting 40 minus 18. So it comes equal to 22. So we can see that argon has 2 more neutrons as compared to K positive. So statement A could be correct. B. Potassium has more nucleons than argon. Now we can see that nucleon number is given. For K positive, nucleon number is 39, while for argon the nucleon number is given as 40. So we can see that argon has more nucleons as compared to K positive. So therefore statement B is incorrect. C. K positive has 20 electrons. Now the atomic number of K positive is given, which is 19. So it means that in neutral potassium there are 19 protons and 19 electrons. Now when it is positively charged, it means that 1 electron is lost. So now 18 electrons are left in K positive. So K positive has 18 instead of 20 electrons, so therefore C is wrong. D. K positive has greater mass than argon. Now mass depends on the number of protons and neutrons, so it becomes equal to nucleon number. As we can see that the nucleon number of K positive is 39 while that of argon is 40, so therefore argon has greater mass as compared to K positive. So D is incorrect. Correct answer is therefore A. Question number 6. A mineral deposit is found to contain small grains made entirely of element carbon. Which property will definitely be true of the grains of carbon? Now we know that carbon consists of 2 allotropes. One is graphite and the second form in which carbon could be present is diamond. A. They will be made of atoms arranged in layers. Now this is true for graphite because in graphite atoms are arranged in the form of layers which can slide over each other. But this is not true for diamond. So therefore A is incorrect. B. They will be soft. Now this is also true for graphite because the layers of graphite can slide over each other, so it makes it slippery and soft, while diamond is hard substance, so therefore it is not true for diamond. C. They will burn to give carbon dioxide. Now both graphite and diamonds are made up of carbon, so therefore when combusted in the presence of oxygen, they will burn to give carbon dioxide gas. This is true for both graphite and diamond, so therefore C could be correct option. Now we know that graphite is a good conductor while diamond is a bad conductor, so therefore this statement is only true for graphite and it is untrue for diamond. The only option that is true for both allotropes of carbon is C. Question number 7. Which diagram shows the outer electron arrangement in calcium fluoride? Now calcium fluoride consists of 2 elements, one is calcium and second is fluorine. Calcium is a metal as it belongs to group 2 of the periodic table and it has 2 electrons in the outermost shell. While fluorine is in group 7 of the periodic table, so it is a non-metal. And there are 7 electrons in the outermost shell of fluorine atom. Now we know that the bonding between metal and non-metal is called ionic bond, and in ionic bond metal loses electron while non-metals gain electron. So therefore calcium will lose its 2 electrons that are present in the outermost shell to form calcium positive 2. And the inner shell is already complete. Two electrons are lost in the process. As 2 electrons are lost and one fluorine atom can only gain 1 electron to complete 8 electrons in the outer shell. So therefore we will need 2 fluorine atoms to bond with 1 calcium. There are 7 electrons in one fluorine atom, and each fluorine atom will gain 1 electron, so therefore for 2 fluorine atoms there will be 2 electrons gained to form 2 fluoride ions. The 8th electron will be of calcium. As fluorine has gained electrons, so therefore now it has become negatively charged. Let's look into the options. In A, we can see that the electrons are shared between calcium and fluorine, which is incorrect because sharing takes place in covalent bond, while in calcium fluoride ionic bond is present. Similarly, in B, we can see that the sharing of electrons has taken place, which is also incorrect. In C, we can see that calcium has lost 2 electrons to form positive 2 ion, while each fluorine has gained 1 electron to form negative ion. So therefore C seems to be correct option. In D, we can see that calcium has gained electron to form negative 2 ion, which is incorrect because calcium is a metal and it loses electron to form positive ion. The correct answer is therefore C. Question 8. How many shared pairs of electrons are there in one carbon dioxide molecule? Now in carbon dioxide we have carbon and oxygen. Carbon belongs to group 4 of the periodic table, so it has 4 electrons in the outermost shell, while oxygen belongs to group 6 of the periodic table and it has 6 electrons in the outermost shell. Now carbon needs 4 electrons to complete its outer shell, while one oxygen needs 2 electrons to complete its outer shell. So therefore carbon will require 2 oxygen atoms, so that with sharing electrons their outermost shell becomes complete. As both carbon and oxygens are non-metals, so therefore the type of bonding will be covalent bonding. And in this bonding, carbon will make double covalent bond with one oxygen and double covalent bond with other oxygen atom. Now we can see that carbon has complete 8 electrons in the outermost shell, while one oxygen has complete 8 electrons in the outermost shell, and again second oxygen also has 8 electrons in the outermost shell. As we can see that 2 shared pairs of electrons are present on this side, while 2 shared pairs of electrons are present on this side. So in total we have 4 shared pairs of electrons. The answer is therefore B. Question number 9. 2 statements about metals are given. One is that metals contain a lattice of negative ions in a sea of electrons. Second is the electrical conductivity of metals is relative to the mobility of the electrons in the structure, which is correct. Now in first statement they have given that metals contain a lattice of negative ions in a sea of electrons. This is incorrect because metals contain a lattice of positive ions in a sea of electrons. This is because metals always lose electron to form positive ions. Statement 1 is therefore incorrect. In statement 2 they have given that electrical conductivity is related to the mobility of electrons in the structure. This is true because metals conduct electricity because of the presence of mobile electrons. So therefore statement 2 is correct and statement 1 is incorrect. The answer is therefore D. Question number 10. Powdered calcium carbonate reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid to produce calcium chloride, water, and carbon dioxide. What is the correct ionic equation including state symbols for this reaction? Let's write equation for this reaction. We have calcium carbonate which is solid. It reacts with HCl, which is aqueous, to form calcium chloride, which is aqueous because it is a soluble salt, water, liquid, and carbon dioxide, gas. Let's balance this equation. We have 2 chlorine atoms on the product side, so we can write 2 with HCl. Now hydrogen atoms are balanced, chlorines are also balanced, calcium is already balanced, and CO3 is already balanced. Now for writing ionic equation, we have to convert aqueous parts into its respective ions, while solid, liquid, and gas are not converted into ions. So rewriting this equation, we can write calcium carbonate, solid. HCl will be converted into its ions, which is H positive, Cl negative. Again, calcium chloride is written in the form of ions, which is calcium plus 2 aqueous, and as there are 2 chlorines, so 2 chloride ions will be formed. Water and carbon dioxide will be written as it is. Now let's find out the spectator ions, which are the ones that are present both on the reactant and product side unchanged. Now writing the ones that are left behind, we have calcium carbonate solid plus 2H plus aqueous, which forms calcium plus 2 aqueous plus H2O liquid plus CO2 gas. Now this is the ionic equation for this reaction. As we can see that in D we have calcium carbonate solid, then 2H plus aqueous, then calcium plus 2 aqueous, water in liquid form, and carbon dioxide in gaseous form. So therefore D is the correct answer. Question 11. Which mass of carbon contains the same number of atoms as 16 grams of sulfur? As both carbon and sulfur are elements, so for elements we can say that same atoms means same number of moles. Now let's find number of moles in 16 grams of sulfur. The atomic mass of sulfur is 32, while the atomic mass of one carbon atom is 12. Using the formula of moles, moles is equal to mass in grams divided by atomic mass. So for sulfur, the mass in grams is given, which is 16. Atomic mass is 32. So the number of moles in 16 grams of sulfur is 0.5 moles. As we know that same moles mean same atoms, so therefore 0.5 moles of carbon will be containing same number of atoms as 16 grams of sulfur. So now let's convert moles back into mass. So mass in grams is equal to moles into atomic mass. For carbon, the number of moles will be same, which is 0.5, and the atomic mass of carbon is given, which is 12. So it comes equal to 6.0 grams. So it means that 6 grams of carbon contains the same number of atoms as 16 grams of sulfur. The answer is therefore B. Question number 12. 3 decimeter cube volume of sulfur dioxide is reacted with 2 decimeter cube volume of oxygen. This is the balanced equation. 2 moles of sulfur dioxide react with 1 mole of oxygen to form 2 moles of sulfur trioxide gas. Assuming the reaction goes to completion and that all gases are at room temperature and pressure, which volume of sulfur trioxide is formed? In this reaction we have 2 reactants, one is sulfur dioxide and one is oxygen. Both are making the product. Now the product will depend on the reactant, that is limiting reactant. Let's first find out the limiting reactant. Limiting reactant is the one that is fully consumed in a chemical reaction without being left behind. So first is sulfur dioxide and second is oxygen. From balanced equation we can see that 2 moles of sulfur dioxide react with 1 mole of oxygen. While in question 3 decimeter cube of sulfur dioxide was given. So then let's find out how much oxygen volume will be required for complete reaction. We can cross multiply. So X equals 3 into 1 divided by 2, which is 1.5 decimeter cube. So from this value we can infer that for 3 decimeter cube of sulfur dioxide, we require 1.5 decimeter cube of oxygen for complete reaction. While in the question we can see that 2 decimeter cube of oxygen was given, so therefore only 1.5 decimeter cube is consumed, so 0.5 decimeter cube will be left behind. So it means that oxygen is excess reactant. It is not limiting. So therefore sulfur dioxide is limiting reactant. So the product will depend on the volume of sulfur dioxide. Now let's find out the volume of product formed from sulfur dioxide. So from balanced equation we can see that 2 moles of sulfur dioxide forms 2 moles of sulfur trioxide. So therefore 3 decimeter cube of sulfur dioxide will form X volume of sulfur trioxide. By cross multiplying we can see that the answer is 3 decimeter cube. So therefore the volume of sulfur trioxide formed from 3 decimeter cube of sulfur dioxide is 3 decimeter cube. Question 13. A sample of magnesium hydroxide is made by adding an excess of aqueous sodium hydroxide to an aqueous solution containing 1.2 grams magnesium sulfate. The mass of magnesium hydroxide formed is 0.26 grams. What is the percentage yield of magnesium hydroxide? Now the formula of percentage yield is actual yield divided by theoretical yield into 100. Actual yield is always given in the question, while theoretical yield is to be found from balanced equation. As in the question, the mass of magnesium hydroxide formed is already given, so therefore this is actual yield. Now let's find out how much magnesium hydroxide is formed from 1.2 grams magnesium sulfate. That will be the theoretical yield. Let's write balanced equation between magnesium sulfate and sodium hydroxide. It forms magnesium hydroxide and sodium sulfate. We can balance this equation by writing 2 with NaOH. Now OH are balanced. We have 2 OH on this side and 2 OH on this side. 1 magnesium on this side, 1 on this side, 2 sodium on this side and 2 with this one. And sulfate is also balanced. Now sodium hydroxide is given in excess in the question, and for magnesium sulfate 1.2 grams are given. Let's find out the molecular mass of both magnesium sulfate and magnesium hydroxide. In magnesium sulfate we have 1 magnesium which is equal to 24, 1 sulfur which is equal to 32, 4 oxygen which is equal to 64. So in total the molecular mass becomes 120. While for magnesium hydroxide we have 1 magnesium which is 24, 2 oxygen atoms which is 32, 2 hydrogen atoms which is equal to 2. So in total it becomes 58. Now let's find the number of moles of magnesium sulfate in 1.20 grams. As we know that moles is equal to mass in grams divided by molecular mass. mass in grams is 1.20, while molecular mass is 120. It comes equal to 0.01 moles of magnesium sulfate. Now from balanced equation we know that 1 mole of magnesium sulfate forms 1 mole of magnesium hydroxide. So therefore 0.01 moles of magnesium sulfate will form same moles of magnesium hydroxide. So by cross multiplying, the number of moles of magnesium hydroxide is 0.01 moles. Now let's convert the moles into mass. Mass is equal to moles into molecular mass. Number of moles is 0.01 and molecular mass of magnesium hydroxide is 58. So it comes equal to 0.58 grams. This is the theoretical yield of magnesium hydroxide. Now putting into the formula of percentage yield, it is equal to actual yield, which is given as 0.26 grams, divided by theoretical yield, which is 0.58 grams, into 100. So it comes equal to 44.8%. The answer is therefore C. Question 14. When concentrated aqueous sodium chloride is electrolyzed using inert electrodes, which product is formed at the cathode and which product is formed at anode? Now we know that in concentrated aqueous sodium chloride we have sodium ions, H plus ions from water, OH negative ions from water and Cl negative ions from sodium chloride. As it is concentrated solution, so therefore Cl negative ions will be greater in quantity as compared to hydroxide ions. In discharge series of cations, we can see that H positive ions are discharged easily as compared to sodium positive ions. So therefore among the cations, H positive will go towards cathode. It will gain electron and convert into product. Now this product is unstable, so therefore one hydrogen atom combines with other hydrogen atom to form hydrogen gas. So the product at cathode is hydrogen gas. Similarly, among anions we can see that the anion having more concentration will be discharged first. So as this is concentrated aqueous solution, so therefore chloride ions is greater as compared to hydroxide. So therefore chloride ions will move towards anode and it will lose 2 electrons to form chlorine gas. So the product formed at anode is chlorine. If it was dilute sodium chloride rather than concentrated, so then oxygen gas would have formed as hydroxide ion would have discharged first. In this case chlorine is formed, so therefore answer is A. Question 15. Which negative ions are present in aqueous copper 2 sulfate? Now in copper 2 sulfate aqueous we have copper plus 2, H plus ions from water, sulfate ions from copper sulfate and hydroxide ions from water. So the negative ions present are sulfate and hydroxide. The answer is therefore C. Question 16. The diagram shows the energy profile of a chemical reaction. On y-axis we have energy and on x-axis we have progress of reaction. Which row is correct? First is that the reaction that is endothermic. As we can see that the reactants are at lower energy as compared to the products which are at higher energy. So it means that reactants have absorbed energy in order to convert into products, so the forward reaction is endothermic. So we can say that forward reaction is endothermic. Now second point is the reaction with the greater activation energy. Now activation energy is the energy that is required by the reactants to convert into transition state. This is the energy of reactants. So this much amount of energy will be required by the reactant to convert into the transition state. So this is activation energy. And it is for forward reaction. For reverse reaction, the activation energy will be from this to the top. So therefore this will be less as compared to the forward direction. So now we can see that more energy is required in the forward direction. So therefore activation energy is higher in forward reaction. The answer is therefore D. Question 17. The table shows the energy released by the complete combustion of some compounds. Which compound releases the least energy when 1 gram is completely burned? Now this energy is for kilojoules per mole, so it is per mole of substance. As we know that 1 mole of a substance is equal to its molecular mass in grams. So we can see that for benzene the molecular mass is 78, so for 1 mole it will be equal to 78 grams. Similarly for heptane we have 100 mR, so for 1 mole it will be equal to 100 grams. Similarly it will be 114 grams for octane and 44 grams for propane. Now let's find out energy per grams. As we have 3270 which is released by 78 grams, so for 1 gram it will be equal to 3270 divided by 78 which is equal to 41.92 kilojoules per gram. Similarly for second one we can find out energy per gram by dividing 4800 with 100, which comes equal to 48 kilojoules per grams. Similarly for third one, 5510 divided by 114, which comes equal to 48.33 kilojoules per gram. For the last one we have 2200 divided by 44, which is equal to 50 kilojoules per grams. As this is all the energy release, so therefore the energy release is always given negative sign. So we can see that the least energy is given by benzene, which is 41.92 kilojoules per grams. Therefore answer is A. Question 18. An experiment is carried out to measure the rate of reaction between magnesium and dilute hydrochloric acid under two different conditions. The mass of magnesium and the number of moles of hydrochloric acid are same in both experiments. Graphs of the results are shown. On y-axis we have volume of gas produced in centimeter cube, on x-axis we have time. This is the first experiment and this is the second one. Which statements could explain the difference between graph 1 and graph 2? Now in both graphs we can see that the amount of product formed is same. Number 1, graph 1 results are obtained at high temperature. Now we know that temperature is directly proportional to the rate of chemical reaction, so therefore greater the temperature, faster will be the rate of chemical reaction, as experiment 1 is more steep as compared to experiment 2, so therefore in experiment 1 greater temperature could have been used. 2. Graph 1 results are obtained by using hydrochloric acid that is more concentrated. Now we know that rate of chemical reaction also depends on the concentration of the reactant, so therefore more concentrated hydrochloric acid will result in faster chemical reaction. Now as the number of moles of acid does not change, so therefore the amount of product will be the same, but the reaction rate will be higher. 3. Graph 1 results are obtained using smaller pieces of magnesium. Now you should know that rate of chemical reaction is directly proportional to the surface area, and smaller pieces means greater surface area. So this can result in faster chemical reaction, so therefore option 3 also seems to be correct for graph 1. As all three options are correct, so therefore answer is A. Question number 19. Hydrogen peroxide decomposes slowly at room temperature. 2 moles of hydrogen peroxide convert into 2 moles of water and 1 mole of oxygen. The reaction can be catalyzed by adding manganese 4 oxide. The diagram shows the apparatus that can be used to monitor the rate of this reaction. We have gas syringe which is attached, and oxygen gas is being measured in gas syringe. In apparatus we have manganese 4 oxide as catalyst and aqueous hydrogen peroxide is being decomposed. Which statement is correct when catalyst is added to the aqueous hydrogen peroxide? A. The catalyst increases the activation energy for the reaction. Now this is false statement because catalyst always decreases the activation energy. B. The catalyst is used up during the reaction. This is incorrect because catalyst is not used up during the chemical reaction. C. The gas syringe fills up more quickly when catalyst is added. This is true because catalyst increases the speed of chemical reaction, so therefore oxygen gas formed will be faster. D. The total amount of oxygen produced increases when the catalyst is added. This is also incorrect because catalyst does not affect the amount of product, it only increases the rate of chemical reaction. So the correct answer is therefore C. Question 20. Reduction can be defined in terms of gain or loss of oxygen or of hydrogen or of electrons. Which row correctly describes all three definitions of reduction? Now you should remember that reduction is actually loss of oxygen. It can also be defined as gain of hydrogen or gain of electrons. So it is loss, gain and gain, so therefore answer is D. Question 21. Why is ethanoic acid described as a weak acid? Now weak acid is the one that is less dissociated into its ions upon dissolution. A. It is an organic acid. Now this is a true statement because ethanoic acid is an organic acid, but all organic acids are not weak acids, so therefore A is incorrect. B. It is a poor conductor of electricity. Now this is also incorrect because weak acid can be dissociated into its ions, so therefore it can conduct electricity in aqueous solution. C. It is only slightly dissociated in water. This is true because weak acid is the one that have less dissociation into its ions. D. It reacts only with very reactive metals. This is incorrect because it can react with less reactive metals such as zinc, iron, etc. The reaction will be slow, but it will eventually react. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 22. What is the best method to prepare a sample of silver chloride? Now we know that silver chloride is AgCl and it is insoluble substance, so insoluble salt can be prepared by a precipitation method. In precipitation method we will take two soluble reactants. The product formed will be insoluble, so therefore it can be easily separated from the solution by filtration. So the best method will be to mix aqueous solutions of silver nitrate, which is soluble in water, and sodium chloride, which is also soluble in water. And what will happen that silver nitrate will react with sodium chloride to form a precipitate of silver chloride, which is separated by filtration. The correct answer is therefore D. Question 23. The nitrogenous fertilizer urea has the structure shown. This is the structure. Which percentage by mass of nitrogen does it contain? Let's first find out the molecular mass of this given molecule of urea. We have the formula, which is NH2 whole 2 CO. In urea we have 2 nitrogen atoms, 4 hydrogen atoms, 1 carbon and 1 oxygen. Now the atomic mass of 1 nitrogen is 14, so for 2 it will be 28. For hydrogen it is 1, so for 4 hydrogen it will be 4. For carbon it is 12, so for 1 carbon it will be 12. For oxygen it is 16, so for 1 oxygen it is 16. Now adding all these together, the molecular mass is 60. Now as we have 2 nitrogen atoms present in 1 mole of urea, so therefore we can find the percentage of nitrogen is equal to the atomic mass of nitrogen into its number of atoms divided by the molecular mass of compound into 100. By putting values, we have 14 as the atomic mass of 1 nitrogen and there are 2 nitrogen atoms, so it will be 28 divided by the molecular mass of compound, which is 60, into 100. So it comes equal to 46.67%. Rounding it to 3 significant figures, the answer is D. Question 24. Ammonia is manufactured by the Haber's process. We have 1 mole of nitrogen that reacts with 3 moles of hydrogen to form 2 moles of ammonia, and enthalpy change is negative as it is exothermic reaction. For this reaction, which row gives the true statement together with the correct reason? Let's first find out the true statement. In one, nitrogen and hydrogen are mixed in the ratio 1:3 by volume. As we can see that the molar ratio is 1:3 in the balanced equation. So therefore this statement is correct. The reason given is that the formula of ammonia is NH3. Now in NH3 we can see that one nitrogen atom requires 3 hydrogen atoms. So therefore this is also true reason. Option 2, the pressure used is approximately 200 atmospheres. This is true statement because high pressure is needed, and the reason is that a high pressure is needed to produce a good yield of ammonia at equilibrium. As in the balanced equation, we can see that 4 moles of reactants are present and it converts into 2 moles of gaseous products. So therefore, at higher pressure, what will happen that the reaction will move in the forward direction because the number of moles of reactant is greater than the number of moles of product. So this statement is also true. 3. The temperature used is approximately 450 degrees centigrade. This is also a true statement. Now the reason is that a higher temperature is needed to produce a good yield of ammonia at equilibrium. This reason is incorrect because this reaction is exothermic, as the enthalpy change is given as negative. So for exothermic reaction at higher temperature, the yield of ammonia will be less. Actually, this temperature is used to keep the rate of reaction moderate. 4. Vanadium 5 oxide is used as catalyst. This is incorrect because iron is used as a catalyst in this chemical reaction. And the reason is that catalyst speeds up the rate of reaction. The reason is true, but the statement is wrong. So in 1 and 2 we can see that the reason and statement both were correct. So therefore answer is A. Question 25. Which uses for sulfuric acid are correct? Number 1. As a bleach in the manufacture of wood pulp for paper. This is incorrect because chlorine is used as a bleaching agent. Number 2. As a food preservative in tinned foods. This is also incorrect because sulfur dioxide gas or sulfur trioxide gas is used as a food preservative instead of sulfuric acid. 3. As a raw material in the manufacture of detergents. This is true because sulfuric acid can be used to make detergents. 4. As a fertilizer. Now sulfuric acid is not directly used as a fertilizer, it is used for the manufacture of different fertilizers. As only option 3 is correct, so therefore answer is D. Question 26. The atomic number of an element is 12. What is the formula of the chloride of X? As the atomic number of X is 12, so it means that there are 12 electrons in total. So by electronic configuration, we can find out that 2 electrons are in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, and 2 electrons are left in the third shell. So as there are 2 electrons in the outer shell, so it means that this element belongs to group 2 of the periodic table. Also, we know that the oxidation state of group 2 is +2 as it will lose 2 electrons. And chlorine belongs to group 7 of the periodic table, so chlorine will gain 1 electron, so therefore it will be -1. Now in making the compound, these numbers are exchanged, so it will become X1 and Cl2. So the formula of chloride of X is XCl2. Question 27. Which property is common to calcium 40, potassium 39 and sodium 23? A. Their atoms all have more neutrons than protons. Let's find out the number of protons from periodic table. Atomic number of calcium is 20. For potassium it is 19 and for sodium it is 11. So in calcium the number of neutron will be equal to nucleon number which is 40 minus atomic number which is 20. So there are 20 neutrons in calcium. Similarly for potassium, the number of neutrons is equal to 39 minus 19 which is equal to 20. And for sodium, it is equal to 23 minus 11 which is equal to 12. As in calcium, the number of neutrons and protons is equal, so therefore statement A is incorrect. B. Their ions all have 8 electrons in their outer shell. Now we can do electronic configuration for calcium. Calcium is in second group of the periodic table. It has 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, 8 in the third shell, and 2 electrons are present in the outermost or valence shell. Now calcium will lose 2 electrons as it is present in second group. So it will make calcium plus 2 ion whose electronic configuration will be 2, 8, 8. Similarly for potassium, we have 2 in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, 8 in the third shell, and 1 in the fourth shell. As it belongs to group 1 of the periodic table, so it will lose 1 electron and the electronic configuration left behind will be 2, 8, 8. Similarly for sodium 11, we have 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, and 1 in the third shell. So as it belongs to group 1, so it will lose 1 electron and the electronic configuration left will be 2, 8. As we can see that 8 electrons are left in the ions of all these 3, so therefore statement B is correct. C. They all sink when added to water. This is incorrect because they float when they are added to water. D. They are all deposited at the positive electrode when their molten chloride is electrolyzed. As these are all metals, so metals are cations, and cations move towards negative electrode which is cathode, so therefore this statement is wrong. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 28. Which statement about transition elements is correct? A. Their soluble salts usually formed colored aqueous solutions. This is true statement because transition elements form colored compounds. B. They are all in the same group of the periodic table. This is wrong because they are not present in the same group. They are present in the same block of the periodic table. C. They are non-metals with high melting points. This is also wrong because they are not non-metals, they are actually metals and they have high melting points. D. They can be mixed together to form compounds. Now metals cannot be mixed with other metals to form compounds, they will form alloys. This is incorrect. The correct answer is therefore A. Question 29. 3 different elements react by losing electrons. The ions formed all have electronic configuration 2, 8. Which statement about these elements is correct? Now these elements react by losing electrons. It means that these elements are actually metals, because metals react by losing electrons. A. They are in the same group. This is incorrect because after losing electron, the electronic configuration will not be same, it will be different for each element of the group. B. They are in the same period. This could be true statement. For example, if we have sodium which has 11 electrons, then magnesium which has 12 electrons, then aluminum which has 13 electrons. So after loss of electron, the electronic configuration of sodium will be 2, 8. For magnesium again it will be 2, 8 because it will lose 2 electrons, and aluminum will lose 3 electrons, so the electronic configuration will be 2, 8. So B could be the correct option. C. They are noble gases. This is wrong because they are metals. D. They are transition elements. This is also a wrong statement because transition elements atomic number is quite high, so therefore they will not fit in this electronic configuration after formation of positive ions. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 30. Metal M is displaced from aqueous M nitrate by copper. Which statement about metal M and its compounds is correct? Now this question is from reactivity series of metals. So first we can write the reactivity series. We have potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum. Then we have zinc, iron, lead. And then we have copper, silver, gold. As we move down in the series, the reactivity decreases. In the question they have given that copper can displace M from M nitrate, so it means copper is more reactive than M, so M should be below copper. Option A, M carbonate is stable when heated. As we can see that M is below in the reactivity series, so its carbonate is not stable to heat, so therefore A is incorrect. B, M oxide is reduced to M by heating with carbon. This is true statement because carbon is able to reduce oxides below aluminum, so therefore M is also present below aluminum. C, M reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid to give hydrogen. This is wrong because hydrogen is more reactive than M because hydrogen comes above copper. D, M reduces zinc oxide to zinc on heating. This is also incorrect because M is present below zinc in the reactivity series, so therefore it cannot reduce zinc oxide to zinc on heating. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 31. Which statement about some of the gases present in air is correct? A. Dry air contains about 78% of oxygen. This is incorrect because oxygen is only present up to 21% in air. B. Methane is produced by incomplete combustion of fossil fuels. This is also a wrong statement because in incomplete combustion of fossil fuels, carbon monoxide and carbon is formed. C. Sulfur dioxide is released by volcanoes. This is true statement because in volcanoes huge amount of sulfur is present, which reacts with oxygen at higher temperature to form sulfur dioxide. D. The noble gases make up about 5% of dry air. This is incorrect because noble gases make up about 1% of dry air. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 32. Which treatment process is used to disinfect water? A is adding carbon. Now carbon does not disinfect, it removes odors when activated carbon is used. B is chlorination. This is true because chlorination upon formation of radical, it disinfects by killing bacteria. C is desalination. Now desalination does not disinfect, it is incorrect because it removes salt. D is filtration. Now filtration is also incorrect because it can only remove insoluble solids. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 33. A molecule of compound Q has 3 carbon-carbon single bonds and 10 carbon-hydrogen bonds only. It has no other bonds. Which statement about compound Q is correct? Let's draw the structure of compound Q. We have 3 carbon-carbon single bonds, so the structure will be like this. This is one bond, second bond, and third bond. And now we have 10 carbon-hydrogen bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A. It can be polymerized. Now this is wrong because for polymerization we need at least one carbon-carbon double bond. B. It decolorizes bromine water. Again this is incorrect because for decolorization of bromine water at least one carbon-carbon double bond should be present. C. It has 3 isomers. Now isomers are those compounds that have same molecular formula but different structures. The molecular formula of this compound is C4H10. We can draw another isomer of this compound like this. The molecular formula is again C4H10, but the structure is different, so therefore this is the only possible isomer. So we have 2 isomers instead of 3, so therefore this is incorrect. D. It reacts with chlorine by substitution. This is correct statement because this is an alkane and alkane can only react by substitution reaction in which one of the hydrogen atom will be replaced by chlorine. Correct answer is therefore D. Question 34. Which organic compound requires the least number of moles of oxygen for the complete combustion of 1 mole of the compound? Let's write the combustion reaction for each of the following. In A we have 3 carbons, 7 hydrogens and 1 OH. It will combust in the presence of oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. Now let's balance the number of carbon atoms, as we have 3 carbon atoms on the reactant side and 1 on the product side, so we can write 3 with CO2. And we have 7 hydrogen atoms plus 1 hydrogen atom, so in total it becomes 8 hydrogen atoms on the reactant side, so we can write 4 with H2O to make it 8 hydrogens. Now the number of oxygen atoms in product is 6 in CO2 and 4 in water, so 4 and 6 becomes 10. While on the reactant side we have 1 oxygen atom in this compound and 9 should be present over here, so we can write 9 by 2. Now 9 by 2 is equal to 4.5 moles. So for 1 mole of A, we would need 4.5 moles of oxygen for complete combustion. Now doing it for B, we have C3H7COOH plus oxygen. It forms CO2 and H2O. First, balancing the number of carbon atoms, we have 4 carbon atoms present, so we can write 4 with CO2. Similarly, we have 8 hydrogen atoms present in the reactant, so we can write 4 with H2O to make it 8. The oxygen atoms on product is 8 plus 4, 12. So as we have 2 on this reactant, so we would need 10 with this oxygen. So we can write 5 with O2 to make it 10 oxygen atoms, so in total it will be 12. So we can see that for 1 mole of this compound, we would need 5 moles of oxygen. For C, we have C3H8. It can also combust in the presence of oxygen to form CO2 and H2O. Now balancing carbon atoms. We have 3 carbons on the reactant side, so we can write 3 with CO2. We have 8 hydrogen atoms in the reactant, so we can write 4 with H2O. Now balancing oxygen. We have 10 oxygen atoms in the product, so we can write 5 with O2. So 1 mole of C3H8 requires 5 moles of oxygen. Now the last one, which is D, we have C4H8. It can combust to form CO2 and H2O. As we have 4 carbon atoms on the reactant side, so we can write 4 with CO2. Similarly, we have 8 hydrogen atoms, so we can write 4 with H2O. Now 8 plus 4, 12 oxygen atoms are present on the product side, so we can write 6 with O2 to make it 12. So for 1 mole of C4H8, we would need 6 moles of oxygen. Now the least number of oxygen is present in first one, so therefore answer is A. Question 35. Which reaction is an addition reaction? In addition reaction, the molecules combine together to form the product. A, making ethane, which is C2H6, and ethene, which is C2H4 from butane. This is incorrect because two products are being formed from one reactant, so this is not addition, it is cracking. B, making ethene, which is C2H4, and hydrogen, which is H2 from butane. Again, this is not addition because two products are being formed, so this is cracking. C, the manufacture of margarine from vegetable oil. Now this is a true statement because in vegetable oil unsaturated compounds are present which contains double bond. So upon addition of hydrogen, it will convert into single bond, so therefore margarine is formed. D, the reaction between ethene, which is C2H4, and oxygen, which is O2, giving carbon dioxide and water. As two products are being formed, so therefore it is not addition, it is combustion. The answer is therefore C. Question 36. Two equations involving ethanol are shown. In first one we have ethanol plus oxygen and oxidation takes place to form carboxylic acid. In second we have glucose whose fermentation forms ethanol and carbon dioxide. Which row is correct? Let's find out the molecular formula of carboxylic acid in part 1. As we have ethanol which consists of two carbon atoms, so it is C2H5OH which reacts with oxygen. As we have two carbon alcohol, so it will form two carbon carboxylic acid which is ethanoic acid CH3COOH. Or we can also write this as CH3CO2H. So it could be either A or C. In second reaction we have glucose which is C6H12O6 and fermentation leads to ethanol which is C2H5OH along with carbon dioxide. Now this reaction does require catalyst which is yeast. In first reaction catalyst is not required, so therefore it is C. The answer is therefore C. Question 37. What is the empirical formula of ethanoic acid? Now ethanoic acid is 2 carbon carboxylic acid which can be written as this CH3COOH. So in total we have 2 carbons, 4 hydrogen atoms and 2 oxygen atoms. So the empirical formula will be CH2O, as it shows the simplest ratio of atoms in the compound. The answer is therefore A. Question 38. Which structure represents propyl methanoate? In A we can see that we have COOH functional group which is carboxylic acid. In B we can see that we have ester functional group. In C again we have ester functional group. In D we have ester functional group. So it is not A because A is carboxylic acid and 4 carbon carboxylic acid is called butanoic acid. B we have ester present, which consists of two parts. One part is from alcohol and second is from carboxylic acid. Now the part consisting of this oxygen is alcohol, so we have 3 carbon alcohol. So 3 carbon alcohol is propyl, while 1 carbon carboxylic acid is present, which is methanoate. So B could be correct option. Again in C we can see that we have ester, so it will be made from 2 portions. The portion consisting of oxygen is alcohol, so it is 2 carbon alcohol, which will be named ethyl, and we have 2 carbon carboxylic acid, which is ethanoic acid. So the ester formed will be ethyl ethanoate. Similarly in D we can break this from this carbon oxygen bonds, and this first portion is of alcohol, so we have 1 carbon alcohol, so it will be methyl, and 3 carbon carboxylic acid is propanoic acid, so it will form propanoate. So propyl methanoate is only B. Question 39. Monomer Z is used to make polychloroethene. What is monomer Z? As in all A, B, C and D, they have given 2 carbon atoms, monomers. So we can take 2 carbon atoms from this polymer. The first 2 carbon atoms are taken. We have 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 chlorine and 1 hydrogen attached with the second carbon. Now in order to make monomer out of it, we have to cross out these bonds and make a new bond in between these 2 carbon atoms. So the monomer formed will be like this. So what we have done is actually we have found out the repeat unit and then converted this repeat unit into monomer. This corresponds to part C, so therefore C is the answer. Question 40. Terylene, a man-made fiber, is used to make clothing. Which row correctly describes how terylene is manufactured? Now you should know that terylene is made up of ester linkages, which can be represented like this. In ester we have carbon double bonded with oxygen and single bonded with another oxygen. This is ester linkage. And in order to make ester linkage we need carboxylic acid and alcohol. Along with ester, small water molecules are also formed, so therefore this is condensation reaction. So we need an acid and an alcohol, and the type of polymerization is condensation, as small water molecules are also formed. The answer is therefore B. Thanks for watching. A like, comment and subscribe will be highly appreciated. You can find related videos in playlists. Stay happy and enjoy learning.